Okay, we're going to be doing the cactus drawing. I got this off the internet, and this is the cactus that I did after experimenting with different marks and shading stuff. Okay, I first started with just using the brush, and obviously I did it like too big, you know, it has to be like layered. Then I used the kebab sticks for the prickly, thorny stuff on the cactus, which didn't actually quite work. So I tried another one that I did a little bit more, and with kebab stick as well. I quite like it, but the tone's not so defined. I want it to be defined a little bit more, to look a little bit more prickly. So what I've done here is I've done thinner stroke, just dry brush with a square brush, okay? And here again I use a combination of kebab stick and a real thin brush. So the idea of the thin brush is to pull the lines. You may not be able to see it here because it's not really dark. No. Okay, so I kind of like pull it from the middle. So the tips looks really thin. So you can imagine if I do it that way. So you can see like the tip of each one looks really pickly, looks really thin. So you kind of like brush it off. Smaller ones. Well, you need to do a bit of a practice. So you will be given one piece of A4 paper for you to kind of practice and play around and have a feel of it. Now, I won't be marking this. This is not for credits. I know most of my students will be like, is this for credits? I go like, nah, this is not, okay? Now, this is kind of my practice space. The practice space is for you to have an idea of how you have the feel of the material, and the texture and the stroke that you're going to put on, how much pressure you want to apply. So I'm going to do one big one now here, okay? So I'm going to start with my square brush. Good to have a piece of newspaper, dry brush, so therefore you're not going to have like too much paint. Now this one I've like put on too much, so I don't want that to happen. Always start with less. Now you can do a pencil one first, but to kind of do a pencil structure, but I'm not going to worry too much about doing a pencil structure because I know that it's going to be like longish, roundish, ball-like, spherical shape. Okay, now something like that, and I know that there's going to be light, darker. Now, to do it darker, so if you look at here, this darker bit has less of the white. Now you can always work over with black, but then it becomes like too heavy. You don't want your drawing to be too heavy. So therefore, we're going to have that control of not using too much on the right hand side. Okay, so general shade. So there's going to be, now you can count like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, you can count if you like. But I'm not going to worry too much about whether I get 8 or I get 6. Okay, so there's going to be 1, maybe 2 there, and 3 here. Now I'm taking the pen from my newspaper because I think it's drier, and the fourth one would be in the middle. So the middle bit, I'm going to have it a little bit thicker, like basically drawing lines, like curvy lines. Now, don't put your brush in the water. Once you put it in the water, it's going to be like too wet. Now I'm going to do these lines thinner on here. Now the idea, if I do it thinner, then I get more of the black paper, so it automatically becomes darker. Then that bit I'm going to go back and do a bit of shading there. So I reveal less of the background, there's the black, and I will have more of the white. See? So there's going to be more of the white. Now I do not want an even line. I know, like an even line. Don't work too hard by making it even. Remember, the top bit is going to be lighter than the bottom bit, so don't do that. Instead, have more paint and less on the bottom. See the difference? So you get less there. Okay, so do it this way. Oh, you can add as you go along. So therefore, the idea is not to put too much at the beginning. And do a bit of shading. Now, when you're doing your shading, you basically apply a bit more pressure. Because if you apply a little bit more pressure, you're pushing it down, you get more of the white onto your paper. Okay, I'm going to do that a little bit more here. Now, no water added so far. I'm just picking up my paint from my newspaper, because the newspaper is absorbing the water, so it's really dry. Okay, now if I, no, my paint tray is really like kind of like messy, and not as messy yet because I managed to peel that bit off yesterday, so it's really clean. And when all this dry, when all this paint dry, I can just peel it off and I get a new clean well. Okay, so that's going to go. Okay, and I'm going to do, now this one doesn't have like, this cactus is like chop off. No, I don't like the idea of being chopped off, so I'm going to do a little bit of that dirt, the ground. So I'm just going to go shade a little bit. Now don't make it too even. Don't work too hard. Minimum effort, maximum output. The more you put on, the worse it's going to become. Yeah, sometimes I do tell my student that if you have too much of it, it's like, no, you put on too much makeup and you don't look as good anymore. Okay, now to do the top bit, this top bit, what I do is I still use the same brush. You could change to a smaller size brush, but I'm not worried about going to change, so I'm just going to go like this way. Okay, just like that. So you go, you can start with the middle one first, maybe the middle, and then you go this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. Okay, so it looks like it's growing out from one point. It's growing out from the crown of like the middle bit. If you look carefully, you can see that it goes like that way. It slants towards the right, and that side slants towards the left. Okay, so goes to the right, goes to the right, goes to the left, and they don't have to be like the same. Okay, close up. Yep. Okay, so now do a little bit more of that, and I'm going to do the crown bit now. So a little bit. Maybe I can. Now, if you use a corner of the brush, you get like really small. Because if you use like, okay, the side of the brush, okay, can't see, okay, this way, and the corner of the brush will give you the side of the brush. The corner gives you a really thin line. So experiment with that. Now I'm going to add the tones. I'm not going to use a kebab stick because I find like it wasn't successful. But you could try on your experimental, on your experiment piece. Now if you like it, you can use it. Okay, I'm not going to use it because it did not work for me. So I'm going to use a round brush. At the moment, I'm using size 4 because that's what I have today. And even with a size 4, because the tip is really fine, I could just dance on top, like go really lightly, not pressing it, okay? Now, if you have a size 2, I think would be easier for you to make those thorny pickly stuff on your cactus, okay? I'm going to load my brush, and now the structure of this, of the tone, it goes around. It goes like, okay, I'm just going to do it at the back. It is basically, you pull from the middle. Now don't worry, you're like, oh, how many months do I need to do? It's nature. It's up to you. You can do how many you like. And you can always come back to it in and work on it. And then a little bit dot in the middle there. Okay. So now I'm going to add on my tickly stuff. You don't have to follow exactly. You don't have to like, oh, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you want to count, fine. But if you don't, it doesn't matter. Okay? Don't worry too much about that. Be a bit more expressive. Okay, I can just go add that as well. Okay, and don't be afraid to turn, like you need to turn your paper around. Okay, this is the now if you observe carefully, the lines are not like straight down, they're a little bit curvy. So as you are doing this, you can kind of like add the curvy stuff. Now, when you are doing the prickly stuff, you need your brush to, you need your color, oh sorry, your paint, your brush to be a bit wet so you can dunk it in the water, but not too wet. Okay, so I always have my newspaper beside me. Okay, or I have newsprint where I could actually like work out the texture. You could like even experiment on the newspaper first. Okay, I could now, okay, close up. Okay, you see the close up? Okay, I could now add a little bit of gray if I like, or I could just leave it as it is, a high contrast one. So maybe I'm just going to leave it as a high contrast. That means just black and white. Now, the example that we looking at, or I was looking at when I do this is not a high contrast one. This is done in maybe pencil. So it has like that mid-tone. Now, not all drawings need to have the mid-tone. I do have a bit of mid-tone. I'm not saying that I don't. Here, that is the mid-tone there, and then there's a really dark. But basically, this is, at the moment, a high contrast drawing, okay? Now, this is a good way to do your cactus at the moment. Okay, you could do it differently, but for the time being, it's good for people to actually try this. To do this first. Now, if you have another method that you want to do, you can do a second cactus using your own method. But it's good to always try something that you have not done before. Okay, now basically I would say that this first time I'm doing a cactus this way. Okay, I've not done a cactus this way. I've never in fact wanted to do a cactus because I think cactus are always difficult, you know, like they have prickly stuff. Although they have good structure, like they are all like very structured plants, they look neat, tidy type of plants in my garden. No, I don't have. I do have some succulents, but not actually cactus because they're too prickly for me. I used to have them, but not anymore. They're troublesome because they're scary plant. They prick me all the time, so I don't. So I don't actually like fancy drawing them, but this is my new challenge, I would say. Okay, my new challenge of. You can add in some like solid white somewhere to just add the highlight. More white. Okay. Yeah.